Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be explaining The Handmaiden, one of the intelligent and twist-packed South Korean psychological thrillers ever made, which has very good IMDB rating of 8.1. This story is full of secrets, deception, identity switches, and emotional manipulation, but at its heart, it is about two women who develop a passionate, secret romance that changes everything and tries to break free from lives they did not choose. This is a story where every character hides something, and every twist reveals something bigger. Let's start. The film begins in the 1930s during the Japanese annexation of Korea, a brutal historical era where Korean culture was systematically suppressed by Japanese occupiers. A young Korean woman arrives at a massive, eerie mansion hidden deep inside a forest. She has been hired as the personal maid for Lady Hideko, a wealthy Japanese heiress living under the strict guardianship of her domineering uncle, Kuzuki. Upon arrival, she is instantly stripped of her identity and given a Japanese name, Tamako, because the uncle forces everyone around him to worship Japanese culture. From the moment she enters, something feels off. The mansion is silent, cold, and full of strict rules. Hideko's uncle worships Japanese culture and enforces it on everyone around him. Even the sunlight is blocked from entering the rooms because he fears it may damage his precious book collection. Hideko lives in this mansion like a prisoner. She is surrounded by wealth but has no freedom. She fears her uncle, follows his strict schedule, and rarely leaves her room. One night, the new maid hears Hideko screaming. She rushes in to comfort her and learns about the trauma of Hideko's childhood. Her aunt died tragically, and ever since, Hideko suffers from nightmares. Although the maid acts innocent, her behavior doesn't fit a typical servant. She lies about being fluent in Japanese. She slips personal information she shouldn't know. She tries on Hideko's clothes and jewelry when left alone. Then comes the movie's first massive revelation. The maid's real name is Suki. She is not an actual maid. She is part of a con group and was brought into the mansion with a secret agenda. A man pretending to be a Japanese nobleman called Count Fujiwara, also a con artist, plans to marry Hideko and steal her inheritance. Suki is placed in the mansion to influence Hideko emotionally and guide her into trusting the nobleman. But the Count's perfect plan hits a big problem: real feelings. As Suki spends time taking care of Hideko, she sees how sad Hideko's life really is. Hideko has grown up with fear, pressure, and no love at all. Suki begins to show Hideko real warmth and care. Soon, their closeness turns into a deep romantic and physical attraction. It all starts because Hideko knows nothing about intimacy, so Suki gently begins teaching her about love and physical pleasure. This leads them to share deeply passionate nights together in secret. For Hideko, this physical love is the first time anyone has ever touched her with kindness instead of cruelty. For Suki, it becomes impossible to treat Hideko like a target. A scheme built entirely on deception slowly mutates into real love. Hideko feels safe with Suki, and Suki starts to feel bad about her secret mission. But neither the Count nor Hideko ever expected this to happen. Suki and Hideko have developed a pure, real love for each other, but both are still hiding their secrets. The breaking point happens one night when Hideko asks, "What if I like someone else? Should I still marry the Count?" This is Suki's chance to stop the trick, but she hesitates. Suki grew up in extreme poverty. She desperately wants the money from this heist so she can have everything she was deprived of as a child. Even though it breaks her heart, Suki decides to stick to the plan. She hides her true feelings for Hideko and answers yes. This answer crushes Hideko, who believes Suki doesn't love her back. Driven by emotional confusion and relentless pressure from the Count, Hideko finally agrees to marry him. However, she makes one non-negotiable condition: Suki must come with them to Japan. Count agrees, and the wedding takes place. But right after the ceremony, everything feels strange. Hideko becomes distant. The Count leaves for a week to convert Hideko's property into cash. When he returns, he doesn't come alone. He brings staff from a mental hospital. He has already told them a specific lie, that his wife has a severe mental illness where she completely confuses her own identity and thinks she is a maid. On the day of Fujiwara's arrival, Hideko cleverly convinces Suki to wear her expensive, elegant dress, while Hideko herself puts on simple maid clothes. When the hospital staff arrives, they ask some questions to Suki instead of Hideko. Later, they all drive to the mental asylum, and this is where another twist hits us. The hospital staff suddenly grabs Suki. Suki screams and cries out that they have the wrong person, desperate to show them that she is just the maid and that Hideko is the real lady. But nobody listens to her. Because of the Count's clever setup, her shouting only makes the staff believe she is deeply delusional. This was always a part of the secret plan. Hideko watches and smiles, knowing her trick worked perfectly. And right here, the truth is revealed. Hideko was not the one being tricked. Hideko was the mastermind behind all of this. This wasn't just the nobleman's betrayal, it was a flawless execution of Hideko's own plan to trade places, fake her disappearance, and win her absolute freedom. The movie goes back in time to Hideko's childhood inside the mansion. Her uncle, obsessed with culture and reputation, controlled every part of her life. When Hideko's family died, her uncle brought her to the mansion. From that young age, she was trained and punished by him for even small mistakes. Her aunt, the uncle's second wife, was the one who taught Hideko how to read out loud, but she was only teaching her because the uncle ordered it. Hideko's aunt lived a life full of fear. She was forced to read inappropriate and disturbing books in front of groups of men, exactly the way the uncle wanted. The pressure and cruelty became too much for her, and she eventually ended her life by hanging herself. After her aunt's death, Hideko was forced to take her place and continue the readings. He kept her locked inside the mansion, away from the world. Hideko grew up surrounded by fear, loneliness, emotional pressure, and never had a chance to escape. The nobleman discovered her suffering and decided to take advantage of it for money. He approached Hideko and asked her to join his plan. In return, he promised she would be free from her uncle and the miserable life she was living. He would get half of her wealth, and she would get her freedom. At first, Hideko is hesitant. She is terrified because she knows her uncle has the power to find her no matter where she hides. She even shares a dark secret. Her uncle has a terrifying way of torturing people by taking them down into his hidden basement. But Fujiwara manages to convince her. He shows her a bottle of opium, explaining that if she ever senses extreme danger, she can take it. A few drops can make a person unconscious, but drinking the whole bottle will end her life quickly before her uncle can ever torture her. However, he tells her she will only get this bottle if she agrees to marry him. It will be his wedding gift to her. With this dark safety net, Hideko agrees to the plan. But she adds a major condition of her own. She asks Fujiwara to bring a girl who can replace her, someone they can lock away in the madhouse under her name so her uncle stops looking, and specifically someone who has no family or anyone else to look for her. Suki fits this perfectly because she doesn't have anyone left to look after her. Her mother was a thief who was hanged when Suki was just a child. To make this happen, the nobleman convinces Hideko's current maid to quit so he can bring Suki into the mansion as the new handmaiden. Up to this point, the Count was acting as the bridge between them, pretending to be the ultimate mastermind. He had convinced Hideko to join hands with him in the plan and marry him so he could take half of her wealth, and he had convinced Suki to work as the handmaiden to help him make Hideko fall in love with him. But what Suki and Hideko didn't know at first was that both of them were being tricked by the con man Fujiwara. In the beginning, both Suki and Hideko were doing their parts exactly as planned. Hideko was attracting Suki to her elegant dresses, jewelry, and shoes so that when the right time came, Suki would not suspect anything when asked to wear them. On the other side, Suki was actively pushing Hideko to marry the nobleman. But Suki pushing Hideko to marry the nobleman was actually part of Hideko and the Count's secret plan all along, so they could send her to the madhouse instead of Hideko. To make sure Suki never suspected this trap, Hideko and the Count faked that they barely knew each other. They spent time together in front of Suki just to make her believe that her mission was working perfectly. Then something unexpected happened. The growing bond between the two women became too strong to ignore. They began to feel something real for each other. But Suki kept telling herself she came only to earn money and needed to follow the plan. Here we know what happened after Hideko asked Suki if she should still marry the nobleman, and Suki said yes. Later that night, after listening to Suki's answer, Hideko was so heartbroken that she decides to end her life just like her aunt did. She goes out to the garden to hang herself, but Suki runs out just in time to save her. Right there, while holding her, Suki breaks down and confesses everything. She admits that she was deceiving her from the very beginning, and her true agenda was to push Hideko to marry the Count for money. Hearing this confession, Hideko finally reveals her own truth, replying, "I have been deceiving you too, but I won't say sorry, because you came to deceive me first." With all the lies out in the open, the two women finally unite and turn the plan entirely against the Count. First, Suki secretly writes a letter to her con group, informing them that the plan has completely changed and she is no longer working with Count Fujiwara. To get them on board, she sends a valuable golden bracelet as a deposit, promising them a much bigger reward later on. But to keep up appearances and ensure the Count doesn't suspect a thing, they continue to pretend that the nobleman's original scheme is working perfectly. Hideko plays her part, formally agreeing to marry the Count, and they prepare to leave for Japan. This is the real reason Hideko had insisted that Suki must accompany her as her maid. No longer to trap her, but to execute their secret counter-alliance. But before leaving the estate, Hideko took Suki into her uncle's secret book collection room. There, she revealed the horrific reality of what she was forced to do, reading explicit, sadistic books in front of audiences of wealthy men for her uncle's profit and twisted pleasure. Enraged by this abuse, Suki destroyed the entire library, tearing the books apart, throwing them into the water, and splashing ink everywhere. With the library ruined, they left for Japan, and the marriage took place. They switched clothes to confuse the hospital staff, making Suki appear to be the unstable wife, so she would be locked away in the madhouse instead of Hideko, exactly as planned. After that, the scene shifts back to the present. Count Fujiwara takes Hideko to a luxury hotel to celebrate their victory. While there, he tells Hideko that he expects to hear from the hospital very soon that his mentally ill wife has died. He explains his ruthless logic. He plans to have Suki killed because she is a smart con artist who isn't the type to stay locked away for very long. To ensure his plan is 100% safe and leaves absolutely no witnesses, her permanent removal is required. But what the Count doesn't know is that the women are already 10 steps ahead. Right on time, Suki's con group sets the madhouse on fire, creating massive chaos to break Suki out safely. Meanwhile, Hideko prepares the final step of the trap. She returns to the hotel room where Count Fujiwara is waiting to celebrate. Under the guise of seduction, she tricks him into drinking wine laced with opium. Within moments, the drug knocks him completely unconscious. Hideko grabs all the cash, slips away, and finally reunites with Suki. Hideko had left behind a letter for Uncle Kuzuki, exposing the Count's entire deception. When Fujiwara finally wakes up from the drugged wine, it is too late. The uncle's henchmen are already waiting in his hotel room to ambush him. They easily capture the Count and drag him straight back to the mansion's infamous basement torture chamber. By this time, the uncle has already cut off some of Fujiwara's fingers. Realizing there is absolutely no escape, the Count decides to use his final card. He asks Kuzuki for a last wish, to smoke a few cigarettes before he dies. The uncle agrees, but he doesn't know that these 3 blue cigarettes are laced with toxic mercury. As Fujiwara smokes them, the poisonous gas rapidly fills the sealed windowless basement. Within moments, the deadly fumes spread through the room, killing both the Count and Uncle Kuzuki right there in the dark. The film symbolically ends the era of both abusers in the exact same room where they caused so much suffering. Their deaths feel like absolute poetic justice. The very space where they manipulated, controlled, and tortured others becomes the tomb of their own downfall. They are destroyed not by an outside force, but by the toxic systems of manipulation they built. With both of their abusers dead, Suki and Hideko take on brand new identities. They leave the past behind and escape to a faraway place where they can finally start a new life together, completely free. And that is the beautifully triumphant ending of The Handmaiden, a cinematic masterpiece showing that while trust can be a dangerous weapon, it is also the most powerful path to true freedom. If you enjoyed this narrative breakdown, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep storytelling videos.